Hey, Dr. Lamb.
Good afternoon.
Last time I saw you, you were not my age, but you're my age now. I just thought I'd rub that in.
Yeah, I had a birthday last week.
I know, on the 14th.
Yeah,
That's the same. My sister-in-law and you have the same birthday.
today's my sister's birthday.
Okay. Well, and the 15th was my older son's birthday, so it's a lot going on. We celebrated on Saturday in Raleigh.
Good.
He wanted to go to P.F. Chang's, so that's where we ate.
Oh, that's good. That's good. We've got one of those here, I guess, between here and Charlotte, down at North Lake Mall. That's 10 miles or so back down the interstate from the lake.
Mm-hmm.
We've stopped eating there though. They've not fared well during the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to back off a lot now because things are starting to rise again. I took my mask in with me on Saturday, and
oh yeah. I wore mine out today. My brother-in-law's got COVID now.
Wow.
He was vaccinated early on, but
yeah,
he's been around people who weren't, and now he's got it. So
he's talking about his brother was vaccinated. He got COVID.
Yeah, it's happening in a lot of areas, and
yeah,
a lot of situations. I did want to tell you, Dr. Lamb, as a colleague just submitted hers to task stream, that was through all 14 of mine will be cleared.
Great.
What's colleagues and they've done well. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, everybody's done really well. And so let's go ahead and, what time is it? Let me see what time it is.
It's not quite 6 yet.
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and remind everybody. I'm gonna have it on the screen when everybody comes on. Screen share. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. But everybody needs to apply for graduation. If you're planning to complete in the fall, whether it's add-on or master's, it doesn't matter. Does not matter. You've got to apply for graduation. I've told you 1,000 times. And so please do not send me your long emails about how you shouldn't have to pay a late fee. While I might commiserate with you, I'm just the messenger on graduation. That is the purview of the registrar.
And if you're finishing this summer, you should have already had this taken care of.
This we've already adjudicated that, and they've already sent out the late bills. It's too late for them. But if you're finishing in December, you need to make sure you apply to graduate. Now, on the screen, I have a PowerPoint. I will include it in these materials when I send out the link. You got one of these from the registrar already this summer. Because they own that process. I'm just showing you this one as a reminder to do it. But you got an email from the registrar reminding you to do that with this PowerPoint. So if you can't find it, fine. I'll send it to you at the end of the day. And all the materials as well, all the materials that I am going to cover today will also be with the email when I send out the video from today. So
they are better than
make sure that you have applied for graduation if you can.
Zesty Cruncher to a damn what else? It's better. It's good. Oh, you ain't playing.
Okay. Let me do that one and pull up the first slide here, and we'll get started. Welcome everybody. This is the interviewing town hall for summer of 2021. What I'm going to talk about today is the 4 types of interviews that you're most likely to encounter as you interview for assistant principal openings in your district or a nearby district. Now, you will have at least 2 of these. Most likely, you will have 4 of these, and there's variations within the 4. So we'll go ahead and get kicked off here with the 4 types of interviews. The first type is the applicant pool interview. A lot of the larger districts you have to enter into, you have to be accepted into the applicant pool before you can actually start interviewing with groups and principals and assistant superintendents or superintendents, that they have a weeding out process to begin with. And I can't give you examples. I'm going to give you examples of the questions. The Gallup organization has developed the Strength Finder series that we use in 605, and out of that they have developed a principal perceiver set of questions. Now they're copyrighted. You're not supposed to see them, but I am a Gallup certified person. I've spent a year with them learning how to do this, and so I'll tell you, they'll ask you up to 60 questions. They ask them in 5 sets of 12. And if you hit one of the landmine questions and answer it incorrectly, at the end of that section, they will end you. They don't guarantee you get to answer all 60. So if in the very first set of 12, if I ask Brad, and I'm going to try to unmute him, or he can unmute himself. In the very first set of questions, the first question, just great news here. One of our folks, let's see, just got appointed in Albemarle. And so congratulations. So I'll get back to that later. That's good news. That's great news. The folks just got a job in Albemarle. So if I were to ask Brad, here's what I'm going to ask now. When you go through the perceiver interviews or the Strength Finder perceiver interviews, they make you answer, but you're supposed to answer, one word, short word. You can't equivocate. You can't give an essay answer. If you use more than about 5 words, then they count. You don't get credit for that. So your answer has to be short and to the point. And so in the first 12 questions, one of them they're going to ask is, Brad, are you an on-time person? And Brad's response should be,
yes, I am.
there you go. That's the only acceptable answer. Don't do like I had a stupid candidate one time come in for AP and said, well, I'm not really a morning person. Well, we're an early start school. What are you talking about? I'm not a morning person. I might be late. No, you won't be late for me because I'm not hiring you. Well, the same thing. That's a landmine question in that, remember, they're trying to figure out, the whole Strength Finder is about your strengths, your dispositional behaviors, your emotional intelligence, which is dispositional behavior, how mature you are. Will you show up on time? Will you show up sober and clean clothes? That's what we're looking for here. This is the very basic level. This is the first level interview. You may not even get a chance to talk to anybody. It may be virtual. It may be online. But they're going to ask you these questions. The second one they're going to ask you is, and this is the one that our folks get wrong the most, that I'm really upset about. And so the question is, and I'm going to ask Tamarla this one. I see Tamarla's with me. She's one of mine. So Tamarla, if the pay were exactly the same, would you prefer to be a teacher or an administrator?
An administrator.
There you go. If you say, well, if it was the pay was the same, I'd be a teacher. They'll let you stay a teacher. You remember, you're interviewing to change professions from teacher to administrator. And so that's the second landmine they're going to ask you. If the pay were the same, I'm going to be an administrator. Remember, we're talking 603 all the time about changing your lens, changing your perspective. You're changing careers. You're not just changing from one part of the building to the other. You're changing your entire career. And if that's how they find out if you know that or not. Third question they're going to ask you is, and this one's straight out of 603, straight. If you don't agree with a board policy, you think it's hurting kids, would you still uphold that policy? And of course, the answer to that question is yes. That's what they're paying you for. Don't think. Follow the rules and the policy. They're always going to ask you, if you have a problem with a policy, would you still enforce it? Yes, you will. Yes, you will. We know that we have to do that. That's what they're paying us to do. I'll just tell you, just like my position coach used to tell me when I was an outside linebacker, the weak side linebacker. We don't pay you to think. We want you to use your head to stick it in the tight end's ribs when he comes across the middle. That's what your head is good for, a battering ram. Don't think. Just follow the directions. Again, don't think. We always follow law and policy. Nobody can give you permission to break the law. The fourth question you'll get asked in these series of 12 is, do you enjoy competition? And if you answer no, you're out. Remember, if the score didn't matter, we wouldn't keep it. It's all about performance. School leadership is all about getting performance. It is a competition. So the answer to that question is always yes. Then fifth one is they're getting more and more about, into a higher level. Do you desire to be great, or for your school to be great? And the answer, of course, is yes. And then the sixth one is do you believe in marketing? Do you believe that schools should have to market or should be in the business of marketing themselves? And the answer is yes. Because if you don't, you lose out to private and charters and other folks in public schools, or you lose out to, or if you're a charter and private, you lose out to other people if they outmarket you. And so those are kind of the 6 areas, but they're going to look for your dispositional behaviors or strengths. So focus on the Strength Finder book in 605. That's the most common of the, or some variation of that to get into the applicant pool. You also, at that level, when they're trying to determine what your soft skills are, let's look at that one right quick. These are the soft skills that they're trying to find, or dispositional behaviors. They're looking for your work ethic, a positive attitude, communication skills, time management, self-confidence. That's the thing. And to assess those, remember, are you on time, self-confidence, or do you enjoy competition? Do you desire to be great? Do you want to market your school? Communication is marketing, positive attitude, work ethic. I'm always on time. I'm a hard worker. Remember, that's the kinds of things that they're trying to determine in that cattle call or that applicant pool interview. These are the things that they're trying to determine. These are the things that are addressed in Strength Finder. Now, in addition to that, you may have some kind of a reasoning activity. These are still in vogue, like the principal's in-basket activity, and you've seen this one in 605, where they ask you to sort through the emails. Now remember, the answer over here on the back, there's nothing, if you put anything in quadrant 3, that's the landmine on this one. They have a question about policy. They have one about media access. We know we don't allow media access. Everybody got to go through public information. But the overall, if you put anything in quadrant 3, if you determine that this email is urgent but it's not important, then they know that you can't, that cognitively that you're not a high level thinker. So number 1, they're looking for your dispositional behaviors. Number 2, they're looking for your cognitive ability. You must be this high to ride this ride. We can't overcome a lack of cognitive ability. So they're looking for that. And so if you put anything in quadrant 3 here, that's a landmine. And the rest of these you should know what to do with. Again, We don't let media in school, FERPA laws, privacy, no videoing. We don't give access to our students or our kids. Media can't come on. We don't speak to the media. We everything we do is through the Public Information Office. You know those things. And so these are pretty common, but it's just a common reasoning activity. That's the next thing that you might get in the applicant pool. And then the virtual interview, the trick about virtual interviews is make sure that you look at yourself on the screen if you're using Zoom or Google, whatever it is, and that makes it look like you're looking at the people in the picture. Now, if you're looking down or over or whatever, or reading your notes, that will not go well. You say, well, Dale, that's kind of no, that's a major thing. And so let me pull that one up. Virtual interviews kind of follow this format. They'll ask you a few general questions. Now, if you feel like that you might need to write yourself notes or reminders, I suggest getting you a sticky pad and write them down and put them around the edge of your monitor screen so that it doesn't look like you're reading them. Especially if they give you a data analysis project and you got to speak to it and you write some key phrases down. A lot of times they will couple the virtual interview with a data analysis project where you do a quick app sell for them. You look at the data and do some quick recommendations and an action plan for them right quick. And the data analysis project will look kind of like this. It looks just like our app sell. They'll give you this and they'll give you like 30 minutes. And then you have to come back online and it's an action plan again. They'll give you, all the data that you need, and you simply do a quick app sell. Now, the thing about it is when you come back online, they're going to ask you questions. The thing for you to do is take some notes and put them on stickies, put them around your screen so that you can speak to your data without having to sit and look down and read your notes. Especially if you're like me, bald, you blind people from the light off the top of your head. Make sure you're watching your screen. So that's a big part of the virtual interview is make sure you're watching your screen. And most of the time, they're going to give you a data analysis project that goes along with this, a few simple questions. And again, they are going to ask you the landmine questions. Policy, again, the same kind of landmine questions that you had in Gallup. What a lot of people done is kind of morph this together. The virtual interview now that a lot of folks are doing is a combination of all three. There's some reasoning, there's will you follow the law and policy, there's some data analysis. It's kind of become a multi-purpose one, but a lot of it is, it's a combination of all three types: reasoning, data analysis, and dispositional behaviors. Reasoning is just cognitive ability. Now, the modern virtual interview kind of has all three of those. So they hit all parts of them. The old time, a lot of times, but some districts still do them individually, but you could expect that you could see all these in one interview. So you got to be prepared. Now, somewhere along the way, they're going to ask you the big picture, and at pretty much every level, they're going to ask you the big picture landmine question at every level, whether it's, of the four, they're going to ask you the big picture landmine question, which is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? After they've got you comfortable and got you answering back and forth, they're going to ask you that landmine question. And remember, for us, for the purposes of these interviews, our strengths are always dispositional, soft skills, emotional intelligence. I'm honest, I'm earnest, I'm ethical, I'm hardworking, I'm dependable, I'm dedicated. All of those kinds of things that won't change. You're a fully formed adult. Your weaknesses always, listen to me, always inexperience. Inexperience is not a bad thing. We don't have to reteach you to relearn. I read a wonderful article on that today, that inexperience is not a bad thing. Many times it's because you don't have bad experience. That's a good thing. You're inexperienced, but you know that. My weaknesses, I've not done this job before, I'm inexperienced, but I know that. I know what I don't know. I know I'm going to have to go get certified to do teacher observations right quick. I'm going to have to learn how to put data into PowerSchool. All those things that I need to do. I know, I know, but I'm going to do it. I swear to you, the first week. So your weaknesses are always inexperience, which means you can change those. You can get better. But if you say my weakness is I'm not a morning person, I can't fix that for you. Or I don't communicate well, or I have problems with confrontation, or those kinds of things. That's not going to change. Your weaknesses are things you can change, which is experience level. And acknowledging that you're gonna do those things. So overarching, no matter what type it is in that first level, they're going to ask about your strengths and weaknesses. All right, the second level of interviews that you will encounter after you get through the first level and get to the pool, or get past that first level interview, is you're going to have the group interview. Now the group interview, and let me pull this up. This one is actually from this week. The group interview, let me roll it up. Community was the second round. There was a panel of 6 people, included the AP, a parent, the school improvement team chair, a regular ed teacher, a PE teacher, and an ESL teacher. A lot of times they will have you'll have one of your specials like an EC, ESL, one of your special POPs teachers are on there. Now, and they could ask me one question each for a total of 6. They were not allowed to ask anything other than those questions. They couldn't just spin. They got one. Now here's the problem: is these questions are designed by the district, and what they're designed to do is to see if you can communicate with people who aren't administrators, who don't know all the acronyms and all the jargon. You've got parents and teachers here, and a lot of them don't know the things that only the AP is the only one that knows what they ask. So they're going to ask you questions. They're going to ask you things like, describe your leadership style. If you tell them I'm a transformational leader, I'm a level 5 leader, they don't know what that means. You have to describe it. This is the things that you would say, so that, and don't say, well, oh, you don't understand that, or use an acronym, oh, you won't know what that, because that's calling them stupid. You have to communicate with them in a way that is non-threatening to them, or that does not point out the things that they don't know that you know. That's the whole notion of the group interview. Can you communicate with people other than other school administrators? Can you use your jargon, your acronyms? Can you break that down and speak to people in a way that they understand? Again, assessment drives instruction. What does that mean? Well, it means I'm going to do data analysis. We're going to develop teaching strategies, willingness to plan collaboratively, PLCs, but we're not going to use instructional leadership. What instructional practices would you like to see when you walk through the building? Well, I'd like to see, I'd like to see best practices. I want to see, I want to see those. I want to see high yield strategies. What does that mean? Well, best practices, effective use of resources, engagement. I mean, again, we could use a lot of acronyms and a lot of things, but here are the look fors. So basically what we're doing is we're breaking down the things that we have taught you, that you have learned, and we're breaking it down in a way that parents and lay people in the building can understand it. We won't talk about, we know the 4, and PLCs, but we'll talk about what the tenets of the PLC is. We won't just say, well, we'll do PLCs, because they don't know. They don't know what that means. And when you're talking about high yield strategies, they don't know what those 9 high yield strategies are. Well, we'll do homework, we'll do non-linguistic representation, we'll do reinforcement, we'll do questioning, we'll do those kinds of things. We'll do Robert. They don't know who Robert Marzano is or was. So we have to explain those things, and so that's the trick. The questions will be very simple. Very simple. They'll be like, these are just softball questions. But the notion is the hard part is, how do I explain this in a way that my audience will understand it, that shows that I can clearly communicate with both parents and teachers at a level that does not insult them, or in a way that does not insult them or talk over their head. That's what the group interview, the second level, is for. The third level interview is with the principal, and that's when you get to use all your jargon. You get to talk all the things that and that I'm really good at, and those kinds of things. That's the thing that that's when you get to show out a little bit. And so so I've got these, and I won't go through all these. These are kind of a bridge between the group interview and the principal interview. Information about your history and experience. Introduce yourself. Why do you think you're a good candidate? What would your previous colleagues say? Sometimes you get a group interview like this that's more like the principal interview, but usually it's not that. I've got group interview. Usually this is when you've got a group of administrators. This is the group of, say you've got the 2 APs and the principal of the school, and you're applying for the third for AP at that building. This is a group interview that you would be asked from that kind of group interview. So don't confuse them. You need to know what kind of group interview it is. It's either going to be with the lay people, the sit team people, the parent, the teachers, or at the principal level interview, it may not just be you and the principal. It may be you and the administrative team. They will ask these kinds of questions. And if it's the principal only, the principal will ask these kinds of questions, which are almost exactly the same. Almost exactly the same. But it's almost verbatim. The only difference is the principal will be asking them instead of the team. So I would spend most of my time with this document, because this was an interview that was done within the last year. This was the questions that were asked. This is a copy of the actual questions. This is the principal interview, but as a team. So I would study this one for the principal interview, even though it says questions I've been asking group interviews. This one is principal led. All right, and so again, you're going to be asked about strengths and weaknesses. Avoid that landmine. Again, your strengths are dispositional, your weaknesses are inexperience. You're going to be asked that at this level as well. And then finally, and I can close that one, you're going to be asked, you'll have to go to a superintendent interview, either the area superintendent, assistant superintendent, or the superintendent. Somebody will interview you from there. And you're going to talk about big picture things. You might talk about COVID, restarting schools. You might talk about virtual academies. You'll certainly talk about 21st century skills, preparing your students, and what does, how do you go about implementing 21st century skills, and what does the 21st century student look like? Well, here's the future ready document. This is what they look like in 21st century skills. Here's this really wonderful piece on how to implement them. They won't just ask you what they are. They'll ask you how you go about putting them in school. This is a wonderful presentation on 6 steps of implementing 21st century skills. And they couldn't be more relevant than they are right now with all the virtual that's going on. And this is how you do it. So you could actually say, how do you switch to a virtual platform for school? It would be the same thing. And so you'll be asked the big picture items when you get to the principal interview. To the superintendent interview, excuse me. You'll be asked the big picture items. All right, so I'll close that one and that one. All right. And we'll go back here. All right. We'll start with that one, and then I'll come back to this one. All right. So let's talk about things you should take on your job interview: a current resume, a cover letter specific to that job that says, I want to work at your school. Your resume, 2 pages. I like them 2 pages with references, but if you attach a 3rd page of references, because sometimes your references may change, but your references and the current way to get in touch with that person, like email or phone number. 4th thing is, when we say a strategic plan, basically what we're talking about there is like the data analysis project. If they've asked you to do that, you would take that with you. Or, if you've done that for them during the group during the initial interview, if it's the same school, you take something like that with you. In lieu of that, a 2-page summary of the evidence work that you did, which is basically all the strategic plans that you did during your clinical internship. I would suggest that you write a 2-page evidence summary of what you did in each of the 6 evidences. No more than 2 pages, double space. They don't want to read all of them things, but that's a good thing in terms of a plan where you show that you had a plan for each of these areas. So if you didn't do a data analysis project for them, I would take a 2-page evidence summary. They may want to see it. It shows that you could do that kind of thing. You'll have to just write that, but again, here's an example of one. And the last thing is your portfolio, and that is your competency folio. So please remember that when you go to TaskStream, instead of going in your DRF, you go to your folios and web pages, Spring 2020 Dell. Over here on the right, you can publish and share this. Now, if you create a printable PDF, it won't have any live links on it to your artifacts. So you email it and you click on recipients. You can do external recipients like this, or you can do internal. If you want, you can email it to yourself and then share that link with prospective employers. So let me see. Share my screen. Go back here. Go back here. Here. Let's see. Move that out of the way. It'll take a minute for it to come through. Delete. I'll go back and send it again. Let's see, did I hit send? No password. If you're sending it externally, send. Let's see if it sent that time. Yep. All right, so you can send it to yourself. And you can forward this to people. And when you hit this, guess what it will do? Ta-da! You can share and they can see all the work that you've done. I'm telling you, this is really good for getting jobs. People love to see. They don't want to read your evidence, but they do like to see your artifacts. They like to see the things that you've done. When it gets down to that, and this sometimes might put you over the edge. So again, you can publish and share, and you can do it externally, or you can send it directly to them, or you can do it externally to yourself, to your private email. Then you can forward that, or go to, just like this one, it went to my private end, and I had it to my Gardner Web account. I just forwarded it. They just click on the link and they can see what I've done. All they get is the email with the link. Really simple, really simple. And when they open it up, all the links are live and they can look at all your stuff. Well, we'd encourage you, make it look as professional as possible. That's a really good one. So that's the deal. All right, so make sure you got those 5 things when you go out there in the world. Again, your portfolio, your plan, and in lieu, if you didn't do a data analysis plan for them, take a 2-page evidence summary, your references, your cover letter, and your resume. Those are all very important when you go in for an interview. How long will you have access until your account expires? That's a good question, Marla. You'll have that until it expires. Now, once you have that link will stay live. You'll be able to use it for a good while. I mean, it will always be there. We'll never take those out. They will stay. Problem is if you don't have a copy of it where you can click on it, you won't be able to go in and publish it once your account expires. So make sure that you go in and publish it and send it. Like I say, I send it to my Gardner Web and I send it to my Yahoo account as a backup. In case I lose one or the other, I will still have that link. And whether my account's active or not, it will still go because we'll keep it live here at Gardner Web. We'll keep TaskStream open, and you will always be able to pull your folio down. Now, you won't be able to go in and work on it or publish or do any of that once your account expires. That's a great question, Mark. Thank you. All right. 5 things you should never ask in an interview. I don't care what level. Doesn't matter. 5 things you never ask. When will I be promoted? How long am I going to have to be an AP? Well, long time, because you're not getting this job. Never ask about when you'll get promoted. Don't ask for salary. You know that school people, that only HR can talk to you about money. Don't ask about money. Don't ask, about raises and national board and all that. Schedule an appointment with the HR people if you want to know that stuff. Don't ask to take time off before you get there or flex time. I've told you the story. I visited Aquanetta over at Hickory Grove, got there. It wasn't even cold weather yet. Still, I think it was either September. I think it was late September. I saw the board of new people, and I went in and said, is this lady, how's she working out? He said, well, she said, I've already let her go. Well, what do you mean? She, said she interviewed with me, knew we were a late start school, and took the job as soon as classes aren't even over until 4:30, and teachers can't leave before 5. And she said she had to leave at 4 o'clock every day to pick up her kids. And you can leave now. You know that this is it's not a good look. If can I come in late? If it's an early start school, can I come in late? No. Can I leave early? No. I mean, remember, there is no such thing as comp time. That is not a thing. I know some schools that might try to work around, but now the law does not recognize comp time, flex time. We've got some things that we could do, but that's not a discussion for when you're interviewing for a job. Any questions that shows you've not been listening, that you were thinking about what you were going to ask instead of listening to what they were telling you. So these are 5 things you never ask in an interview. And then all right, so here's the end for me. We're bringing it home here. Here are the things that, from my experiences and from interviewing hundreds of people over my career, here are the things that I'm telling you. Now, these are my pet peeves. They may not be anybody else's, but I read about this stuff all the time. I was reading articles today, some current articles today on interviewing, see if anything had changed since when I did this in the spring. And I have my curated news feed that hooks into personnel and sends me articles on a regular basis. And I read through several today. And so I sometimes adjust my presentation, but everything's still the same from the last time I did this. So here we go. Dress for success. If you wear a wig, wear your best wig. Whatever it is. I had a fellow that interviewed with me. He wore a toupee, and he came in, and his toupee was kind of cocked to the side. He was working in the school, and I couldn't tell if he was looking at me or looking past me, and I just couldn't hire him. If you wear the best clothes you got. I don't care if you're overdressed. Wear your best wig. Whatever you got, that's the best you got. That's what you do. Show some respect. Take a 2-page evidence summary if you haven't done again, that's real important. If you have not done a data analysis, take something that shows that you know how to do data analysis. That's real important. Research both the school administration, look at the report card and TWC. We've taught you how to do that. Know the backgrounds of the administrative team, if at all possible. Read their bios online if they're available. Know what you don't know. EVOS, Power School, Power Source, RTI, PBIS, and Finance. Be able to speak instruction in the bottom line, student achievement. When I say know what you don't know that those things are a lot more involved than what you've seen before or what you have experience with. We know that you get your EVOS score as a teacher, but the school gets a score as well, and the district. Know that those are a lot more involved. Know that the Power School portal for APs is a lot more involved than the one for teachers. They've got a discipline module, several other things. Response to intervention, there's a lot more to it than just what you do in your classroom. So that's what we're saying is the PBIS. Know what you don't know. You know those things, but you know that you've not done them at the administrative level, and acknowledge that. That's okay, but you're going to learn fast. Have a humorous anecdote about how you were able to turn a negative into a positive. Almost every reference I get now, the electronic type, because they're all one of 3 different types, they all have a question on them about how you were able to turn a negative into a positive. And if you can make it humorous, that's even better. Be prepared to discuss hours and responsibilities honestly. Again, if you know the building won't get any closer to your house just because you get a job there and the traffic any better. Don't go that's not going to happen. If you can't come till 9 o'clock in the morning, you need to tell them that before you get the job, or you got to leave at 4 in the afternoon. You need to tell them that before you get the job. You need to be prepared to do that honestly. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Again, your strengths are dispositional. Your weaknesses are inexperience. Always don't get too comfortable. Step out on the limb there. Don't discuss salary, experience depth, national board pay, etc. Don't engage in gossip or negative talk. And then number 10, and this is my all-time pet peeve forever and ever. Don't go interview for a job that you wouldn't take just to get the experience. I've had people come in, so I wouldn't work here. Too far from my house. Traffic's too bad. I don't like this type of student. I just want to come for the experience of interviewing so I know what questions that you're going to ask. So when I go over to the school where I really want the job, I'll know what questions. I'll be prepared for the interview. Well, that's not my job to prepare you for an interview as a principal. My job is to find the best person for the job. Don't if you know that it's 2 or 3 counties away and you're not willing to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours each way every day, and you know you can't afford to get an apartment, then don't go. Do not apply for jobs you know you won't take simply to get interviewing experience. If the word will get out on things like that, that will not go well for you. Don't waste people's time. If you're not willing to work there and you know that up front, now as you get into it and you find out it's not for you, that's a different story. But do not go to places that you know that you wouldn't go just because you get an interview. That is highly unethical and will always come back and bite you in the business. Now, we know you're going to get a job here. Let's see. When you get a job, here's the top 10 for the first faculty meeting. You'll have about a month, between 2 weeks and a month to get ready. And when you get your first AP job. And so here are the things by the first faculty meeting that you need to accomplish if you're going to give your chance to be successful. Give yourself a chance to be successful. Know everybody's name and what they do. If you have to get the yearbook from last year and memorize it, you take it home every night. you take it home every night. Now, sometimes I know that folks don't have a moratorium on how long pictures, and sometimes pictures are a little bit old, or people might have changed over the years and they want to keep on, but memorize those names and what they do. I tease this professor of biology at Gardner Webb, and there's a picture of him in the hallway where we're up in the calf going down the hallway, and I tease him. I know it's an old picture because Tom's in the lab teaching students how to make fire. That's how old that picture is. You might have some of those in the yearbook, but study those faces, those names, know who people are and what they do. And if you don't have time to do that, or you don't have any memory tricks where you can learn everybody's name, move around the room, proximity. Don't just have them, stand up and shout out like you're doing a roll call. Move around the room, proximity and eye contact, and have people introduce themselves to you. But this is a people business. If you can know their names by the first faculty meeting, that's one of the more impressive things that you can do and get you off to a good start. Number 2, get an early win. Do something simple. Now, people are going to come to you, want you to fix things that have been broken forever and ever, and there's a reason why they've been broken forever and ever. Don't tackle something, like universal health care the first week. Get somebody an eraser, a grade book, get a win, something simple early on that you can do. Don't tackle the biggest, most pressing problem in the school. Give us staff a quick overview of who you are and your professional experience. Quick. That means a minute or less of who you are. While they'll be interested, don't waste their time. Volunteer to do something nobody else wants to do. Be a servant leader. Do as I do. Lend a hand. Present the opening of school plan and be conversant if your principal will let you. That shows that you already bought in and you're already a part of the team. Smile and laugh at the appropriate times. That's harder than you think it will be, by the way. Sometimes people say stuff, teachers will say things, and I think, well, that's a damn fool thing to say, or you just laugh out loud. You have to catch yourself. Work on your poker face. Laugh and smile at the appropriate times. Ask questions and take notes so you can follow up on requests. Always have your notebook. Remember, and if you're still on the job, make sure that your notebook is small enough that it fits in your pocket. Always have your notebook with you. Now, if you use your phone to take notes or whatever and all of that, well, good for you. Isn't that special? But take notes. Write it down. I don't care. You'll get old one of these days, but when you sleep, you tend to forget. Write it down. Take notes when people ask you things so that you can follow up and get back to them. Recognize somebody for something positive you've seen. Be specific. Don't just say, well, I was by Tamarla's room and it looked great. Well, what in Tamarla's room looked great? Her bulletin boards, her plant. I mean, what was good in her room? Be specific. Don't complain or seem worried about the opening of school. Oh God, I'm not prepared. No, the kids will show up. Buses will roll whether you're ready or not. School's going to open. So there's no need to whine or complain. And that leads to the last one. Again, my pet peeve. Don't mention how busy you are, how hard you're working. That's the expectation. That's what we're paying you for. Remember, you don't teach a soul now. We expect you to do all this hard work. Remember, you're out of the classroom. It's a different career now. It's a different job. Don't whine and complain about it. You're the one that picked it. So don't be telling everybody how hard you work or how long or how busy. And that's what we hired you to do so we could do our job, which is teach. That's the way teachers, that's the way that they think and they feel. I appreciate you joining me tonight. I will send you all these materials. We try to keep these at about 45 minutes so that if we have questions, specific things, I'll be glad to answer for you. We've got the faculty, most of them here. I see Dr. Todd, Dr. Stedman, Dr. Stone. We've got expert folks here. I saw Dr. Worrell earlier. Dr. Zions is here. Gosh, we got a wealth of knowledge. We've got retired superintendents. We've got retired principals here that hired. I'll guarantee you that we've got folks, we've hired thousands of people. And these folks, they can, there's Dr. Revis. She's a sitting school board member who does the ultimate hiring. So these folks know they can answer questions for you. Don't hesitate to ask them. Dr. Sanders is here. Don't hesitate to ask them. But these are the 4 types. These are the things that are important. Know which one of the types of interviews that you're walking into. Make sure you're planned and prepared, that you don't get caught unawares, that you're talking to a parent group or a group of a school improvement team, a group of non-educators or non-administrators, so that you can tailor your answers. Know all those kinds of things. Again, your strengths are always dispositional. Your weaknesses are always inexperience. There's some common things here. And if you're planned and prepared, here's the good thing. If you're planned and prepared for these, if you know what to expect, you can relax. You're not just sitting there running through your head trying to remember all your stuff. You can relax and let your personality and who you are come through. And I think that's the most important thing about getting jobs. There's Dr. Whitaker over there, is that they can see who you are. They can project who you are. But if you're so nervous and trying to remember all this stuff and wondering what they're going to ask you next, if you're not prepared, then you can't present your best self. They can't project and see who you are. They're trying to figure out. They're trying to hire the best person that's going to fit the best with them and vibrate sympathetically with them. And relaxing allows that part of you to come through. And that's what really helps about getting jobs. Faculty, thank you for joining us tonight. Students, candidates, especially those of you who are finishing this summer, we appreciate you picking Gardner Webb, and we've enjoyed working with you all. It's been special. It always is, but we really like working with you. The last thing, and I'm glad, thank you for reminding me of that, Shannon. About 2 weeks after, about 2 weeks after the last day of the semester, which is what, next Wednesday or Thursday, your transcript will be available. You have to go to your DPI or school Department of Ed website in order to update your license. For those of you in South Carolina, you'll have to take the practice 5412. North Carolina, you don't right now. That requirement is coming back in North Carolina as well. Very shortly, it'll be in for the folks coming in the fall. And so you got to take the practice 5412. There's a menu item in your 605 class and your 603 and 4 classes where you can go in and the links to where to study and how to take those tests. They're not that expensive, and they're pretty easy to take, pretty quick. We've not had anybody have a problem with any of those. But so in terms of licensure, if you're in South Carolina or want to get licensed in South Carolina, you need to take 5412. Other than that, about 2 weeks after the semester is over, your transcript will be available. You go into the website and you pay your $55 and do your Form B. If you have any issues, in the chat, I'm going to put, everybody knows Mrs. Wendy Turbyfield, RBYFILL, and it's W. Turbyfield at. She is our licensure officer. And so she would be the person. You can get in touch with me and I'll forward it to her. But she'll help you if you have issues. But remember, licensure is a you thing. You have to go in and establish an account with DPI or the School of Ed, the Department of Ed in South Carolina. You have to go in and you have to do the paperwork. And Wendy will send the form and she will, but you have to do the transcript stuff. it's all very menu driven. But now remember, your transcript won't be available until 2 weeks. They guarantee 2 weeks after the session is out, the transcript will be available and you can upgrade your license. Now it will be retroactive back to the last day of this semester. Is when it will be retroactive back to. Now, South Carolina people, please remember, they will license you either elementary or secondary. And if you have experience at both, you can get licensed in both. But again, that's an experience issue. That's got nothing to do with your preparation program. It wouldn't matter where you went to school. South Carolina has an experience requirement in terms of if you've taught in high school, you'll get your license as a high school administrator. If you taught in elementary school, then you would get licensed as an elementary. And if you've got enough years at both, you can get both. So again, there's an experience requirement in South Carolina. North Carolina, it's K-12. As long as you got your teaching experience 3 years, they'll certify you K-12 in North Carolina. Now, if you get K-12, what we found is if you can get K-12 added in North Carolina, you can apply for reciprocity. That was a question that the question just asked. And yes, we have found that people are able to do that. So what you do is if you're in South Carolina and you want to be K-12 certified, well, you can get a job in either. You get North Carolina certification, which is K-12, and then apply reciprocal rather than just applying straight to South Carolina. And we've had people that are able to get both that way. So there's always a little back door there. But if you're just going to apply in South Carolina, it will be based on your experience. That's the way that one works. Other questions that you have? These are great questions. All right. So the question is, would I hire a candidate as a assistant principal if they have one more semester to go to complete license? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would. Right now, if you're within one semester right now, a lot of folks are hiring. If you're going to finish by Christmas, you're in the slot. Now, some districts may not go for that, but it's not that the principal wouldn't hire you. It's just the district doesn't allow it. But most districts are allowing that now. And what they'll do is they'll ask for a letter, and again, Ms. Turbyfield sends it, that says that you're in good standing and will finish in December. She has a specific letter. It's a form letter that says that. And when she sends that, yeah, they can hire you. So everybody on this screen should be actually hireable right now, unless there's some specific district that says no, we're not going to hire them until they completely finish. But yes, by both state departments, you are hireable now, and there is a form or a letter that Wendy sends that verifies that you're going to finish in December, and they can hire you now. Just send it to her. Getting our service that we address in the next program. All right. So if you're all right, so I'm not sure I understand the question about moving into the doctoral program. If you're accelerating into the program, into the doctoral, you'll just do 698 in the fall and finish your evidences and be done. You'll continue your internship into the fall. If you're completing this semester, you'll be done. You just apply for your license. So hope that answered that question. So we do have a couple that are accelerating from 603 into 730 in the fall. You will do 698 just like you would if you had 605 class. You'll continue to work with your group and you'll continue to do your evidences through 698. You'll just continue right on and finish in December. All right. To obtain the master's in school administration, what is required? All right, so that is cert to MELS. That means if you've done the add-on program, you can come back you can come back in the fall and do both 602 and 604, or you can do 604 in the fall and 602 in the spring. It's just 12 hours. It's 602 and 604. And the good thing is no evidence work, no internship work, no hours, none of that stuff. It's just take the class and pass them, and you get, and then either at Christmas or in the spring, according to whether you decide to do the 2 classes or the 1 and the 1, you get a master's in school administration, a master of arts in school. This mostly is designed for people who do not have, that do not have a master's in education. This is most people who have like MBAs or MDivs, in divinity, something like that in technology. That's for those folks, and then it's very helpful in states that have unions and in some districts that require a master's in education. So Megan asked the question, which is a good question, is what will it cost? Well, you won't have any portfolio fees, task stream fees, graduation fees. You'll pay a straight $4.98 per credit hour for 12 hours. So somebody do that math. The new cost in the fall is $498 a credit hour times 12. Of course, you can divide it up into 2. So if we did that math right quick, calculator, 498 times 6 equals, costs $2,988, costs $3,000 a course. 2 courses cost you $6,000, which is pretty cheap. So that's what the cost would be. I have been on 2 AP interviews. Experience over me. Again, how do you compete with that? You don't have experience, but what you do is you highlight that, that you can change that you have this, you've got all this you've got experience, just not, during your clinical, show them your folios, show them, the evidence work that you've done. You need to highlight that having no experience is not a detriment. It's not a deficiency. It's a good thing, and you're going to learn. They can, you're a self-starter. They won't have to put their finger on everything for you to do, but that you will do things the way that they want them done. They won't have to break any bad habits with you. You're young and excited, whether you are or not. You're young and excited, and that you will be. You're a go-getter. So again, if folks are hung up on that part, then there's nothing you can't fix that. I mean, I can only be a big old overgrown bald white man. That's all I can do. I can't change that. I have to accept some things in life. If my dream was to be a jockey, by the time I started school, I was already too big to be a jockey. So, sometimes in life you just have to accept your limitations and move on. You can't fix that part. That's not something that you could fix. But you can highlight, what you do bring. I think that's great. And so Megan asked a question, which is a good question. If you're going to do the doctoral program later on, it doesn't matter here for us. So if you're going to come back to the EDCI program, the DEOL program, or the EDLS program, which is administration, curriculum, or organization, those 2 courses would not matter to us in that if you've got your add-on with us. Now, I can't say if it would matter somewhere else. You're going to get your doctorate somewhere else, probably would make a difference, but it doesn't with us. But if you're going to work in a union state, if you're going to work in a district that requires a master's degree, and there's a good many of them out there, then it's a bargain. This came about with one of my students who started out with us in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and she was a military dependent. She ended up in Hawaii. Amber Phelps, some of you might remember Amber. And when she finished her add-on, she couldn't get a job because Hawaii is a union state and she didn't have a master's. And so we did these 2, that's how this program got started. We did 2 quick courses with her right quick, got her master's degree, and she was able to get a job. And then, quite ironically, when that posting was up in Hawaii, they came to Florida again, Union State, and because she had her master's degree and had experience, she got an AP job in Florida, in Jacksonville. She just started this year. So that's how this came about, is some states and some districts require that. North Carolina and South Carolina do not as a state, but individual districts sometimes do. So if you need to find out from the district that you want to work in, or the one you're working in, if it's going to be an issue. And if it is, we can fix you up with that. We can get you those 2 courses. All right. So Dr. Stone is reminding me that each instructor in 605 will have a PowerPoint presentation celebration in their class. I would like to join as many of those as possible to see everybody off. And so, Dr. Stone, I'm going to let you close us out. Thank you again, all of you, for joining us tonight. I saw Dr. Tobias there as well. Thank you all for joining us. Dr. Stone, I'm going to let you close out with about how the celebration is going to work.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lamb. You of course, here at 7 o'clock, you give me this time. So basically, since there's a large number of you, we are going to do the celebrations individually in your class. So your instructor is going to share with you at some point for that last night of you're together. It'll be a PowerPoint presentation, whatever else they want to do. But there won't be one general celebration because we can't do anything here on the campus. So look for that from your instructor on the very last class. And by the way, and thank you very much for everyone who has sent me the materials. I know it's kind of odd to send it to a strange man, your family picture and all about you. I promise you, I did not use it other than to put together the PowerPoint, but I will tell you, I love your whys. You are very wise people. And if you go into your interviews with those whys as your guiding principle, you're going to do well. And you have some wonderful family pictures. So I just have enjoyed that tremendously. But look to your instructor. They'll be having something for you probably the last night. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody have a good evening. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.